Life Check Yourself with Michal Spiegelman. How to unlock your soul's wisdom and live a fully aligned life. Ladies, welcome. Super excited for this episode. Michal, you've been on a lot of podcasts. Is there anyone who doesn't start the episode talking about how excited they are about their guest?
That's such a good question. Yes. And was there any episode that I didn't say, I am so excited to be here?
I'm like, every time I'm like, Marnie, say something different. But honestly, I'm so excited about this conversation.
And me too. Me too. Yes.
Maybe ChatGPT can help me think of some different ways to say I'm excited.
Yes, that's such an incredible opening, but you're right. But I am excited to be here with you.
Me too. This guest you're going to meet, Michal Spiegelman, we have known each other. I mean, I first did the Hoffman process like in 2006. So I think I met you in maybe 2007, right?
Right. I did mine in 2003. And I think we met in 2007. Yes. And we've been like following each other since there and like meeting through Hoffman and iTech and just different
ways.
Yes,
and
exactly.
We both, I learned how to really be a facilitator when I took a facilitator training with you and with Tessa. And so Michal, that's why I'm just telling you, that's why I'm so excited. And Michal has recently written a book and published it. It's called Becoming Soulful, 6 Keys for Profound Transformation in Your Therapy, Coaching, or Healing Practice. She's a certified professional soul coach. She's a Reiki master, a spiritual mentor. She's a social worker. She's the founder of Beacons of Change. She's the creator of the Soulful Healer Method for Profound Transformation. She has worked with therapists, social workers, coaches, healing practitioners who recognize that traditional talk therapy alone is not really enough to fully reconnect with their inner resources and awaken to the wisdom of their soul. She also works with individuals regardless of their professional titles to live and lead with purpose, meaning, and joy. She's been doing this for 3 decades. She's had private sessions, classes, workshops, media appearances. She shares me in my mission to elevate consciousness in the world one soul at a time. And you are going to love this conversation. So I'm super excited that you're here. So let me ask you this to just start off. I think that a lot of people get really confused around this idea of soul because, and I was just talking to a client about this who was talking to me about growing up having like a religious understanding of soul and, divine, and becoming really turned off by it by the time she was like 11 or 12. And she said to me, I really want to figure out a way to have faith and to source that part inside of me without the fire and brimstone or the rules or whatever that she associated with religion. And so I'm wondering if you could just start us off today talking about what is soul in a way that is universal, that is maybe spiritual, that not religious. So people can maybe, if you were willing, listener, to crack open some possibility that this could be for you.
I love the question. And I think that to make it simple, like super clear and easy, let's separate for a minute the soul and spirituality, and then we'll bring it all together. So the soul it's actually very simple. It's the pure essence of who we are. It's our divine spark, this part inside ourselves that is unlimited. And again, if you think about the words pure essence, you're born as a pure human being with no limitations, no fears, no nothing, no shoulds, no needs. Like that's the pure essence of who we are. And that's the soul. And the soul, the way I see it, chose to be in our physical body so the soul can grow and learn and expand. The soul's purpose is always to live life to the fullest and experience life in with all range of emotions. So the soul doesn't care about results and achievements, and doesn't see some emotions as bad and some emotions as good. The soul, she wants us to experience everything, life to the fullest. There is nothing that is considered to be like bad. That's the soul. Now let's look at spirituality. So spirituality, the way I see it, and again, to make it really simple, it doesn't have to be related to religious. It can integrate with religious, but spirituality, the way I see it, is a connection with something bigger than us. And spirituality offers us as a partnership, a real partnership between us humans, on this earth, and there's something bigger than us that we can even call it life or existence. It doesn't matter what name you use. People call it God, people call it higher power, source energy, universal energy. But even if we just go with life or existence to make it even wider, then it doesn't have to be connected with any institutional religion, although some people integrate it together and it's just beautiful, but it's just connection with something bigger than us. And then we have the soul, the pure essence of who we are. And in my book, in chapter 2, I offer an illustration. It's called the map of spirituality. And maybe I'll just describe it for a minute, because then it really explains.
I'm looking it up, y'all. Well, you
Yeah,
guys have to get
right.
the book, right? So
I do have a colored
I
version
love
of
it.
it
She has the
here.
chart. Okay, I'm just saying.
I had
Link in the show notes. Okay, go ahead.
Right. Actually, if I move the camera for a minute, you see it on my wall behind
Oh
me?
yeah, that's great.
Morning?
Okay,
Okay.
yep,
Yes.
perfect.
So actually, I'll leave it for a minute, for those who are
Watching.
not just listening to the audio, but watching it as well. So in this map of spirituality, the bottom part of the map, we see the human self. And at the top part of the map, we see the divine self, or that's the spiritual self. And we see this spiral bridging or connecting the human self and the divine self. And in the middle of this spiral that is connecting those two ways of being, nestled the soul. So the soul is the merging point between the divine self and the human self. So then the divine self helps us or guides us on seeing things in a wider perspective, while the human self is just like our earthly, day-to-day material side, the one that helps us to bring spirituality and ground it in the everyday life. And our soul's purpose is to help us or guide us really to work in harmony with the human self and with the divine self. And I'll stop for a minute and ask you if it makes sense.
That makes so much sense. I love the idea of like that the soul is this bridge. There's this this connective pathway.
Exactly.
So that, and I think this is also really like, if this resonates for anyone who's listening, if you've always felt like, I don't get God or universe, like I don't know how to connect to that, like I don't get it, I don't know if I believe in it. What I hear you saying is that soul, which is internal, could be a pathway to, it's like deciding to like take a baby step onto the bridge, perhaps.
Exactly. And the human self and the divine self, both of them are so necessary. We're not saying in any way that the divine self is better than the human self. We really need both. I was actually just thinking about it this morning. 2 days ago, I came back from a visit in Israel. My daughter lives in Israel. I was born and raised in Israel. And with the war in Israel and everything that is going on, then, every few months, it's still important for me to visit. And I had a perfect example of how my human self and my divine self worked in harmony when I had to face the challenge twice during my visit of running to the safe room in the middle of the night because of rockets and sirens. And I have a lot of trauma in my past, which I think is also my gift in a way, because that's what made me, the therapy, the social worker, the healer that I am. So I did a lot of work on my trauma, preparing for the trip and everything. And still, because it's been many years since I was in a situation like physically in a situation when I had to run to the safe room because I live in the US. Um, then I really had to work together with my human self and with my divine self. So my human self helped me to prepare all the things that I needed before going to bed. Just because there were sirens and rockets, for a while now, every few days in the middle of the night, and all my family and friends are already used to like running to the safe room. I'm not used to it. I was just visiting. So I made sure I'm prepared. I have everything that I need. I know where my phone is. I know where my glasses are. I know what I need, like a scarf or something to run to the safe room when it's cold. So my human self helped me be prepared. But then when twice when I had to face this situation, I really needed to connect to my divine self. That part that offered me a bigger perspective that said, you're okay, you're guided, you're supported, there's something bigger than you that is with you. Because my human self may think that I'm so alone, in a moment like that there is nobody, and which is not true. And my divine self really brought in the perspective of, you're not alone, you're supported, and that really helped me to deal with that, because the divine self, guided by my soul, helps me to tap into my wisdom, my intuition, my inner resources. And when I'm connected to this internal guidance system, that's how I call it, internal guidance system, then I can face any challenge using those resources that I have from within. I just need to remember to connect. So it was a beautiful combination of my human self and my divine self working together, and I was okay, and just I knew that I'm okay regardless.
Yeah, but it feels so scary. So let me ask you this, because in your book, you talk about life force energy, and so I would love to know about this idea of like, what is our life force energy, and then you talk in the book about leaking life force energy.
Yes,
And
yes.
so especially when I was talking about like dating, but just still continuing about like how we just sort of our negative energy can leak, and then we're losing our capacity for like higher energy, anabolic energy. So can you explain what that is and
Right,
why it's
right.
important?
So, yeah, so we are energetic beings, energy is everywhere, energy is flowing through us. And I think that most people underestimate the importance of vitality, the importance of like raising your energy level and clearing your channel, allowing energy to flow through you. And life force energy is flowing through all of us, but all the time, it's flowing everywhere. But there are so many situations in our everyday life when we can leak life force energy. For example, for me, being nervous, being afraid of the siren and the rockets, definitely leaking life force energy. But even when I'm just thinking about like everyday life, you hear some bad news, you have a challenging conversation with someone, your child is going through a tough time, even when they're adults, you don't sleep well, you have something physically going on. We all leak life force energy. But if we think about us as a whole, and we really understand that when we leak life force energy, we operate on empty. We don't have enough energy to deal with whatever we're dealing with. Just this understanding is really, really powerful. Because, for example, when you go through a physical challenge, or even any crisis, any imbalance can get worse or better, depends on your energy level. So, for example, I know you in your past, you had the ski accident, right? And you were like laying in bed for a while and everything. I went through surgery 6 months ago, and I remember that in addition, like I was in pain. I'm sure that you were in pain as well, right? But I made it really. I was very intentional and conscious about connecting with life force energy and boosting my body with this connection and raising my vitality. Because when I was with a raised vitality, I felt like I can deal with everything. And there's so many ways to raise vitality level, and it's different for different people. You know, I mentioned the ski accident you had. So I don't know, I see sometimes on Facebook pictures of you like skiing, and I wonder if that's one of the ways for you to raise your vitality level.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel so alive, you know, it's
Exactly.
beautiful, it's in nature, it's very social, like it's super fun to do it with friends. It's like, yeah, so it does
You,
raise my vitality
and
for sure.
and for somebody else, it can actually, maybe somebody doesn't like ski, or it's very draining for them. I think we each have to find our own way to raise vitality level, and I have like a library of ideas in my book, and I present an exercise when I ask people to choose some ways that work for them to raise their vitality level. There's so many things, and each person needs to find their own way to raise vitality.
I love that. And I think that that is such an important thing because in the media and a lot of the conversations, we're always looking for these. I wrote a thing on Substack about like hacks and how they're dumb, right? Like, let me take this supplement for vitality. Let me get a dermabrasion peel and then I'll
Right.
feel younger, right? And I think I'm not judging any of those things. I'm saying that you may have an untapped source of vitality that you don't
Exactly.
even know is there, that is inside of you, just like waiting to get expressed, is what I hear you saying.
Right, exactly. And there are some maybe surprising or unexpected ways that we lick life force. For example, suppressing emotions, which many of us are programmed to
Mm.
do, suppressing emotions. And I'll tell you something even more interesting than that. For many of us, coaches, healers, women on a personal growth journey, when we are aware and we do the work, we actually may get to a point where we fake positivity. Like everybody
Yes.
say, like, use affirmations, be positive, positive thinking. And then when we fake positivity, it's not authentic, it's not real, we fake it, we lick life force.
Note that. That's a good clip.
Yeah, exactly. So there is a paradox of awareness that leads to fake positivity, that those of us who are committed to personal growth and inner work often feel emotional heaviness more than other people because of all the work that we do. And that actually, decreases our vitality level. So to embrace all emotions, again, our soul's purpose is to feel all range of emotions. So to embrace rather than suppress our emotions, and to not fake positivity, to not always feel like we have to be positive. If
Hmm.
we feel like she, just to give herself a time to be there and feel the way we feel, know that it will be over soon, but not to escape feeling the emotions. Those are I think a few ways to really make sure that we live in with good vitality level.
So talk to me. This is the other thing I think that's really amazing in your book is you talk about the meridians and about so we've talked about this life force energy, and now you're talking about like how do you circulate it? How do you amplify it? Because I think a lot of people that are listening may not know about that and how it connects to soul and becoming soulful.
Right. So, I think that different people find different ways to connect to life force energy,
Mm.
and what works for one person maybe doesn't work for somebody else. I know, like, my husband loves skiing. I don't like skiing. So for him, that's not one of the best ways, like to connect to life force energy. I think that it's very wise to develop and maintain a daily practice of connecting with life force energy. So I'm a Reiki master for 30 years, and for me, Reiki is a great way. It's just a practice that I do every day, and I I teach it for so many years, of connecting to life force energy. And it's a simple practice of moving your hands over specific chakras, emotional centers, and then boosting your body. But for somebody else, it may be yoga, or it may be exercise, or it may be being outside of nature. But whatever you can do to connect with life force energy, so you experience this wholeness on a physical level, emotional level, spiritual level, that really fills up your soul. And in terms of the soul, then just to ask yourself this question: what fills up my soul? Because often people confuse self-care with soul care. It's not the same.
Ooh, that's so
Self-care are
interesting. Yeah.
practices that we do. Yeah, and I talk about it in my book, that self-care are practices that we do to keep us function, and soul care is practices that we have in our lives that brings meaning, purpose, and joy. That's really what our soul wants to. So to ask yourself a simple question of like, what can I do today to fill up my soul, and to really pay attention to when do you feel, what do you do, and when do you feel that your soul is just full? And when you tune into your soul, it's so like yummy and delicious, and you feel so centered and grounded. That's the difference between self-care and soul care.
And I think also soul care doesn't mean you're necessarily quiet. Because I was just thinking, I had some friends over last night to play mahjong, and it was so fun. And we were just like laughing and being girls and
Yes,
stuff. And I was like,
playfulness.
that is soul care. Like that was just so
Exactly.
fun. Yeah, and it wasn't
Exactly.
it wasn't
Right.
self care.
Right.
Before
And
that, I got the gray out of my hair. That was self care. The soul care was hanging out with some friends.
exactly. And Marley, do you think that you always saw like fun, playfulness, joy as a high priority, like growing up? Was it a high priority?
No,
Did
I
you
would
learn from
say,
your parents to value that?
um, I think, well, that's what's kind of interesting is I think that my parents did have a lot of fun when I was growing
Hmm.
up. I think that, it was when so for me, my story is, like I was not the favorite child. I was not the golden child, right? So to me, in order to get love or validation, I had to perform, right?
Yeah,
Or like I
me
was trying to
too.
overcompensate, right? So to
Exactly.
me, like there was no time for that because I was just trying to
Exactly.
achieve. And
Exactly. So
what's
I'm the
what
same.
yeah, and what's interesting too is I just started volunteering in this program in Steamboat called Partners for You. So I'm a mentee to a 13-year-old. And I was inspired by another friend of mine who does Big Brothers and Big Sisters in LA. And I said, what do you love most about it? And he said, it reminds me to be playful,
Yeah.
right? Because he gets to do things that the child part of him, like fly kites and build erector
Right.
sets and whatever the boy in him
Exactly.
wants to do, right?
Right.
And so I think that remembering for me, right? Like, and that's why I loved having kids, was because when I didn't work, like that was my job. So being productive was
Right.
playing, right? And so it was like a
Exactly.
free pass. But then it was like my kids grew up and I was like, well, now I have to grind again. And so in my next iteration, making sure that soul care is a priority, even though I have other goals, it takes effort to put that first.
Exactly. Yeah. And I asked you the question about like growing up because I see that many people didn't value joy, fun, playfulness, either because their parents didn't model it to them, or like in your case, in my case, also it was like perform, achieve, work harder, and then a little bit like to please, for me, it was like to please my parents and be whoever they expected me to be. So there was never a time for fun and joy and playfulness. And I think that's so important. And many times when I take people through the journey into the soul, then unexpectedly there's some guidance that comes from the soul from within, that actually comes from the inner child, from the connection
Mm.
with the inner child, that during the journey into the soul, sometimes depends on the circumstances, we ask, or the person asks the inner child, what do you need from me? And the inner child just, let me be a child, let me play.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. I love that. Okay, my last topic for you. I mean, we could talk for hours about this book because
Okay.
you need to get it. Okay. Um, is this idea of somatic. So you and I mean, I don't know if you really understand. For me, I really truly understand the importance of somatics and embodiment when I did the Hoffman process in 2006. I was,
Yeah.
before that, I was doing like talk therapy, marriage counseling, stuff like that. Um, and I think that there is a huge disconnect from like this idea of like, okay, Michal, I understand soul. I get it's divine. I got to do fun stuff. I got to do soul care. Okay. But like the part about like the embodiment of our
Oh my God.
soul, people like
So
just,
much.
when I say somatics, people are like, what the hell? So I thought I wanted to talk to you about that because you are like an expert at it.
Yeah, so there are 6 keys for profound transformation in my book, and the sixth key, the one that is like bringing everything together, is the key of embodiment. And embodiment, for each one of the 6 keys, I have like a slogan, and for the embodiment is the embracing the body as a gateway to the soul. And
Mm,
I think that when I work with professionals, with therapists, with coaches, with mental health professionals, I always share my perspective that talk therapy is not enough. There is no way to heal deeply when we only do talk therapy. I learned it the hard way, through my own journey when I was going to different therapists and a lot of trauma that I experienced. It didn't address really the trauma that was sitting in my body. And I learned through then when I became, in addition to a social worker, like I learned lots of holistic modalities that I really understood that we need to address the trauma and the pain and the experience that lives in the body. So I started when I was a traditional social worker. I noticed that there are so many unexplained symptoms, physical symptoms, that people are stuck in life, and it's really hard to understand, to get to the core of it. So I was very curious about finding ways to get to the core. And what I discovered is that when I asked the person, when did this pain start, whether it's physical or emotional pain, where does it live in your body? And let's connect to this pain in your body and see what it needs, what it wants to communicate to you. There is so much wisdom in the
yes.
body, and it's really only when we connect to the wisdom of the body that we can truly, truly heal.
And
So,
I don't know if I told you this, but when I had my ski accident and the doctors were like, you're going to be better in 3 months and whatever. And then I still had this chronic pain. I went to the spine doctor and he's like, it's all healed. You good. And I was still in pain. And what ended up being true for me was that it wasn't until I did a forgiveness process around the person that I followed down the ski hill, because I
yeah,
was like, had a lot of resentfulness and anger and frustration about that. And also my dad had died. I had to forgive my brother. I had to forgive my stepmom. There's just like a lot in my body that I didn't even know about. And,
right.
and then I went on this hike, like a week later, and all of a sudden the pain was gone. Right. Because I had to do that emotional release to get that
Exactly. Yeah,
embodiment. So I
but
just want to give that
right,
example of like true to
right.
life.
And it must be done, through the body. I had such an interesting conversation the other day with a therapist that actually she went through the journey into the soul with me, and she was just blown away from the results. And then she told me after 2 weeks when we met for the follow up, she said, I tried those things with my clients and I have amazing results. Why does it work? Why is it so powerful? And I said, in addition to in the journey into the soul, there is a guided visualization that I take people through. It's a very deep process of guided visualization of connecting with the soul. But I always hold a space, like energetically, like I hold an energetic container, and I continue to use energy work to hold this container for the person. And I guide them into finding areas in their body where there is stuck energy that needs to be released, and we release it during the session. And this release, this opening, just like what you described, sometimes it's forgiveness, sometimes many times it's forgiveness, sometimes it's just having compassion to someone, sometimes it's talking to your inner child and asking for her forgiveness for not being there for her. Other times it's like connecting on a spiritual level with someone who's no longer here, but you hold a resentment towards this person, and during the guided visualization you release the resentment from your body. But there's always a sense of lightness that people feel, even with different stories. And I explained to these therapists is that this the embodiment process of really tuning into the body, to the wisdom of the body, supported by the wisdom of the soul, that brings us to get to the core of the symptoms, whatever is happening, and then the healing is so deep.
Wow. And it's really what I hope everyone's sort of getting from this is that we are these whole humans. One of the things that I talk about is that, my life design process is based on human-centered design, right? Like it's human-centered. We are human. There's like a lot of facets of what it means to be human. And it is our mind, it is our emotions, it is our body, it is our spirit, right? And that if we're just focused on one part, then we're not really focusing on all the parts. And then we can't
right. We want to see the whole.
Yeah. Right. And it's really, really, really important that we understand that that it has not, like we talked about at the beginning, it's not about religion necessarily to connect to soul. It's like this, your truth, right? Anything,
exactly.
Last things you want to say, a piece of advice for someone who wants to take a first step into becoming?
Yeah. So, when I think about becoming soulful, I mean, even like think about the two words, becoming and soulful, to really accept, to embrace that our soul has the potential to be our perfect guide. And once we are connected to our internal guidance system, once we are awakened to the wisdom of our soul and receiving the guidance from within, then we see the path clearly. So tune into your soul. In my book, I give some really practical ways to do soul dialogue, to ask our soul questions, even just something as simple as, what wisdom do you have for me today? And either to meditate or to write it down, to take, a new page in your journal and write the words, dear soul, what wisdom do you have for me today? And sit quietly in meditation or in Reiki or for a few minutes, and then write it all down, or even just talk to your soul when you go to bed and connect and ask, what do you need from me? What wisdom do you have for me today? So dialogue with your soul. And and in my book, I really offer some practical ways to do it. So if you're interested, then through my book or just connect with me, and I would love to guide you into journeying into your soul.
This has been so amazing. So as we kind of wrap up, I would love if you could sort of offer like a first step. What's some advice for someone who's like, how do I start to bring this all together to start to become soulful?
So in my book, I write, and I have it on the wall in front of me, our soul has the potential to be a perfect guide. And I also write in my book, we live in a pool of wisdom, an endless tank of insight waiting to be embraced. So my wish for everybody is, first of all, to recognize, to accept that once you awaken to the wisdom of your soul, once you tune into your soul, you have the perfect guidance that helps you to navigate through life. Your soul is your inner compass. Your soul gives you access to your intuition, to your inner wisdom, to collective wisdom, wisdom that is bigger than us. And to make it more practical, in my book, I offer some practical ways to dialogue with your soul. And you can start very simple. Start a new page in your journal, write down at the top of the page, dear soul, what wisdom do you have for me today?
Love it.
Or You can do it in your meditation if you don't like writing, either to ask, dear soul, what wisdom do you have for me today? Close your eyes and just listen. Or another question that you can ask your soul is, dear soul, what do you need from me today? And again, either to write, free write, soul writing, I call it soul journaling, to write down whatever comes up, or if you prefer to do it in a different way, not to write, to ask this question, dear soul, what do you need from me today? To close your eyes, to place your hands on your body, to focus on your breathing, and just to listen to the messages that you receive from your soul. The messages may come as like a word or a knowing or a feeling or a visual, whatever it is, but just to listen deeply. And sometimes the answers will not come up on the spot. Sometimes they will come up later.
Yeah.
But just asking the question and embracing that your soul, that awakening into the wisdom of your soul can bring you the guidance that you need from within. That's a beautiful way to start.
I love it. Y'all need to get this book, Becoming Soulful. The link is in the show notes, 6 keys. And I love also, like, this is really great if you are a coach or consultant and you want to take some of this work, or therapist, and want to take it deeper. I know that this book is for you also, and also as an individual. So there's lots of ways to connect with Michal in the show notes, to go on a soul journey with her through her writing or through working with her individually. Okay, this episode was worth getting excited about, wasn't it?
Oh my God, absolutely.
I feel like we had to break it down. So many areas where you can actually do the work of life checking yourself. Remember that you were guided to this episode for some reason. It is part of your soul's journey. So the invitation is to share it with a friend, rewind, listen, go back, take notes. But whatever you do, always and always remember, life check yourself. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. Listen, if you're feeling stuck, I want you to know you're not alone, and you don't have to settle for it. I've created a free quiz to help you pinpoint what's draining your energy and exactly how you can fix it. So head over to decodeyourdestinyquiz.com and take the 60-second quiz right now. That's decodeyourdestinyquiz.com. And if you're ready to dive deeper, you can book a free no-obligation consultation at marniebatista.com/private coaching. That's Marnie, M-A-R-N-I, Batista, B-A-T-T-I-S, as in Sam, T-A.com/private coaching, all one word. Let's take the first step to creating a life you love on your terms. I'm Marnie, and I'll see you next time.